Putazos y Pendejadas Podcast.
What's going on, boxing heads? Today we will discuss Shakur Stevenson's win over Teofimo Lopez on Saturday and whether Shakur may be too good for his own good, as well as some of the other fights on the big card at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, man, this Saturday, dude, Shakur Stevenson almost pitched a perfect game versus Teofimo Lopez. He defeated him by unanimous decision. All judges agreed on the scorecards. It was 119-109. That's basically 11 rounds to 1. Mark, many people thought Shakur was going to win this fight running away, and I mean literally running away like he did in his fights versus De Los Santos and Yoshino. But Shakur kept the track shoes in the closet. There was no running around. There was no dramatically jumping out of range. He stood in with Teofimo and simply outboxed him in almost every round. Just some things that I noticed in the fight, Mark. The best weapon Shakur used to beat Lopez was the jab. Teofimo had no answer for it, and he never adjusted to it. He just kept walking in with that Philly shell and his lead hand down, relying on his head movement to get out of the way of the jab, but he just kept getting caught with it. I was hoping he would get into a high guard at some point, do something different, pick up his hands after throwing his punches. He just fought with too many flaws, and you can't do that with a fighter like Shakur. Another thing that kind of surprised me in the fight, Mark, was just how Shakur wasn't just the more technically skilled fighter. He wasn't just the faster fighter. He was also the stronger fighter. It seemed like Teofimo could not muscle him around at all. Were you surprised by anything else in that fight?
A few things surprised me. I'm going to start with Teofimo. I was very impressed. I was very surprised that Teofimo wasn't better prepared. But then when you think about it, he doesn't have a major trainer in his corner. He tried to go get one over at Canelo's team, tried a few guys here and there, and his personality just doesn't fit. Seems like his dad's the only one that can handle his personality or knows him, you know. But his dad is limited, and I'm not disrespecting him. He's got him to where he's got him, but I think his dad is limited training. And I think maybe for the past couple of years, and this is just me on the outside looking in, maybe Teofimo's been a one-trick pony, a one-man show as well, relying on his athleticism as the one trick and a one-man show is he's probably training himself. And I don't think he ever comes up with a game plan. And when you come up with a Shakur Stevens, you have to have a game plan. I was surprised that he couldn't get off any combinations at all. Now, the other thing surprised me is Shakur. Maybe it wasn't that Teofimo was slow and all that. What surprised me about Shakur is the anticipation, David. He knows what Teofimo was going to do before Teofimo knew. Like if he can read his brain before his brain tells his hand to throw that punch somewhere in between there, Shakur already knows and he just throws a jab and stops everything. Or maybe when he's going to move a foot or make a foot movement, he knows and he just jabs his way out of it. Then he started jabbing him harder as he started reading him more and more and more. I mean, you can't play poker against the guy because he can see your cards. He can read your mind. It's the anticipation that was so surprising to me on Shakur's end. And also, the jab is great. Everybody knows that the jab is great, but he turned it into a weapon and a hard jab. And he took it to Teofimo, which was surprising as well, hurting him also. But go ahead, man. Those are the things that surprised me.
Well, I want to add on to one of your points about the trainer. I think that's a big thing that's overlooked here. And one of the things you kind of felt bad for Teofimo in the fight when you were listening to the corner and his dad was telling him, you got to hit him hard. It's like, what? Like, that's all you got for the guy in one of the biggest fights of his career? You got to hit him hard. I think Teofimo has not looked the same since he stopped working with Joey Gamache. And it's not the first time. I'm not the only one that thinks that. There are people who have said this before. So that's a big thing. Ever since Joey Gamache and the camp parted ways, things just haven't been the same for Teofimo Lopez. Let's talk about Shakur a little bit because he's the man of the hour right now. It was an impressive performance. I've been a critic of Shakur and his fighting style in other fights. And even Denmark, I still just wasn't on the edge of my seat last night. It wasn't a boring fight. It was not boring. But when you're charging $70 to watch this main event, and the whole card overall was good, but when you're charging $70, are you getting the value for your money? And that kind of brings me to this next point. Is Shakur Stevenson too good for his own good? And what I mean by that is, where does Shakur go from here? Will he be able, what kind of fights is he going to be able to get after basically blanking a very good fighter in Teofimo Lopez, which was probably the best opponent he's faced up to this point? To me, Mark, Theo looked ready for this fight. He looked fast to me. As far hand speed wise, at least, he was quick. He was right up there with Shakur. Of course, Shakur was definitely faster down throughout the fight, but Teofimo had no answers for Shakur. And as impressive as this performance was, it just did not excite me. And we know that Shakur is a ticket seller. He draws in Newark, and he definitely helped pull in that crowd into MSG. So we know this fight did well at the gate. And thinking about the fight purses that these two guys made, like, they're rumored to have made between $8 and $10 million each. I don't know what the pay-per-view buys are going to look like, but if the buys aren't over 200 or 300,000, the paydays these guys just earned are not justified. So is Turkey Al Sheikh and Riyadh season going to continue to bleed money to put Shakur in big fights? Maybe he will. But those will have to be fights that Turkey will want to see. And I don't know who at 135 or 140 that's going to be. I don't see anyone at those weights right now that have a strong chance of beating Shakur Stevenson. So if Turkey doesn't back Shakur's fight at 135 or at 140, who would take market money to fight Shakur? Now, Mark, you said something last night after we were texting about the fight, and you think that Shakur is the best fighter from 130 to 140, and I agree. I think everybody can agree with that. But you took it a step further. Why don't you share with the viewers how you felt about Shakur after this fight? Give us your take.
I said that he's the best fighter from 135 to 154. And look, I don't mean tomorrow he can go up there and beat a Fundura, but maybe he's that next guy like Manny Pacquiao that can win 6, 7, 8 divisions, is what Pacquiao did, right? Maybe
7.
he is that guy. Maybe he is Oscar de la Hoya who can win 6 divisions. I really do think eventually he's going to be the best at each weight class. Now, when you're doing something like that, you're never going to be undisputed because you're going to reach for them Pacquiao, De La Hoya records as far as divisions, which a lot of people haven't done. But I believe he can do it. And give him a few years, and he can be up there. And there's still a Fundura up there, and his body's filled out a little bit more. And he does it just like a Crawford did. Pacquiao did it at lower weight classes, so maybe it was just a tad easier. But, I mean, you saw last night, Shakur was a lot bigger than Teo, I thought. Freaking even his shoulders are wider. This guy's got the ability to be the best from 135 all the way to 154. I don't see him losing for a really, really long time. And if they're right about it and they pick the right opponents, like Pacquiao did, you're looking at a record breaker here and something special.
Okay, I see 147 maybe being Shakur's ceiling. 154, I think it's a little too high for him. Not a little too high. I think 154 is too high for Shakur. Bud Crawford, he's significantly bigger than Shakur Stevenson, if you've seen them stand next to each other. Even Bud was saying that 154, the guys are bigger up there. It's a different level of competition. So he was selective about who he wanted to fight after welterweight. So 147, I think may even be too high for Shakur, but I think he can definitely compete at 147 if the matchups are right. He called out Conor Benn, as we all heard at the end of the match. What do you think about that? I kind of like Shakur and Conor Benn.
I like it. I think it makes more money than that one because of how big of a star Conor Benn is in the UK, man. And a lot of people don't realize how big boxers are in the UK. You put this fight in the UK, man,
Huge,
they probably hit 10 million each. They
huge
probably
fight.
make 10 million each. But I
More
like
than that.
it because of the huge event it'll be, but it's gonna be the same result. Probably easier because I don't see Conor Benn being on the same level as a Teal.
No, but he's a bigger fighter than Teal,
Yeah.
and a way more aggressive fighter, and I would even say more durable, tougher.
Yeah.
Because he said something to Shakur. Shakur's like, I'll box you up, right? Conor told him, you're not gonna be able to keep me off of you. And he said, I know you got hurt to the body, which we didn't even get to talk about that. Teal had a moment, a very brief moment. I think it was around 8 or 9, where he hurt Shakur to the body, and Shakur kind of moved around the ring and disengaged for a while. So that was something that I think a missed opportunity for Teofimo, which his corner should have caught. It should have told him, keep going to the body from early on in the fight. Because Teofimo started jabbing and poking, and then he got away from it. And then he went back to it. By the time he did, it was too late. Conor Benn saw that. So he's an ultra aggressive fighter, pretty damn strong. He just went up to middleweight and fought a middleweight, and was fought on even terms with the middleweight 2 fights in a row. Yes, it was Chris Eubank, but still. I think Conor Benn gives Shakur Stevenson a little bit tougher fight than Teofimo did. But you're right. It's going to be a huge fight in the UK for sure.
Huge. Yeah. Maybe he wins 2 rounds.
That's all he would have to. That's all he would have to do to be better than Teofimo, right?
That's way better than Teal.
Mark, on the undercard, there were some other notable fights on there. Bruce Shushu Carrington, Brownsville, Brooklyn. To me, stole the show. He faced Carlos Castro, stopped him in the 9th round. Shu survived his own little scary moment in that fight. He got wobbled. It looked like a temple shot that Castro landed around round 4. Shu got wobbled by that, was able to survive. He still kept getting caught after that. So it looked like we were going to see maybe a little upset there because Castro had a hell of a right hand, but Shu persevered through it all, ended up stopping Castro with a very beautiful combination, man. Laid him out to the count of 10. What did you think of Bruce Shushu Carrington?
You know what, man? Sometimes I've been guilty of being a prisoner of the moment with some of these guys. And you know, with Shushu, I was like, oh man, this guy's the Terminator, he's unstoppable. And I got disappointed last night that he got caught, man. And maybe I set myself up for things like that. I always get too I get too crazy for these guys early. And yeah, he disappointed me. He got caught, but you know what, man? He showed the durability to come back. I mean, it's hard to come back from being hurt. You know what I mean? And he did it. He came back and he won and stopped his guy. That looks really, really good. And I think he'll continue to be better. But now he's got a chin issue, and it may entice some guys to come in like a Rafael Espinosa, who I believe is on a collision course, man. Like my man Bob Santos says, they're on a collision course. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see it sooner. I'd like to see it this year. But I'm still on Shushu train, man. He's good. He's great. Excellent comeback yesterday.
Just a quick note about a possible Espinosa fight. I think it would be unwise to think Shushu didn't have a chin, only because it looked like a temple shot, and you could see Shushu was like tapping the top of his head. Those temple shots, man, that's not a chin thing. That's a balance thing. That's like getting hit in the ear and your balance goes off. What it does show me though is that the man knows how to survive, and he can come back from adversity. So I would be wary. I hope Espinosa just takes the fight because he knows he can win, not because he thinks Shushu has some chin issues. That would be a hell of a fight, though. And we need some clarity at featherweight. That would be a big fight to help that clarity happen. Mark, there was one other fight. I'm sure it's going to be talked about. You've already seen the memes and the videos. Big Baby Miller, or should we call him Big Baldy Miller, had a wardrobe malfunction. I don't know. Can you call a toupee a wardrobe malfunction? I don't know. Is it a part of a wardrobe? You're wearing it, right? You got it on your head. It's not growing out of you. He was the dude gets his wig knocked off, and then literally knocked off. That was a shocking moment for me, man. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in boxing. I remember Paulie Malignaggi having some issues with braids or something. Remember he had braids in his hair? I think he was fighting in the UK. And Paulie was known for doing crazy stuff with his hair back in the day. And he fought somebody. He had long braids put into his hair. And I remember there was some issues with that. But I can't recall anybody's hair coming off in a boxing match. Did you get to see that moment? This is the unscripted part of the show, folks. We didn't talk about this, but
I freaked out, man. I was fooled. I never would have thought he had fake hair up there. I don't even know how that's possible in a fight. What do they do? Glue it on, or I don't know. And yeah, it was funny, man. I never would have thought this guy was wearing the toupee the whole time, man. He always had a cool head of hair, in my opinion. I'm a bald guy, so I admire dudes with cool hair. And he was one of those dudes that had those cool and wow. Amazing, man, what happened. It's crazy. But shit, to keep the composure, David, and win. You know what I mean? Damn, man, that's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, there was kind of no choice. He had to own it at that point because it was just gonna keep falling off or flopping in the air or whatever. So he just took it off his head and threw it into the crowd, man. So yeah, that's what you call
Another
owning
thing
it.
that came onto my mind is how long has this been going on with him? How long has he been fooling us? You know?
Yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a toupee, dude. It looked real.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, the boxing, the theater of the unexpected, as Larry Merchant used to say. Overall, Mark, I thought it was a pretty good card, man. Oh, Keyshawn Davis. Let's not forget about him, man. He stopped Jermaine Ortiz in the 12th round via body shot. Hurt him a couple times. He dropped him before that with a body shot as well. What did you think of Keyshawn's debut at 140 pounds?
Man, he debuted against one of the best in the world.
One of our top 10 guys.
I have big respect for Jermaine Ortiz. I know you do too. You had him in your top 10 there. I've always had respect for him. I think he's one of the best out there, and I truly think Keyshawn Davis faced the best Ortiz, and he beat him, handedly. And I believe he's going to stay at 140 pounds. And he showed his presence, man. I really didn't think that was going to be as easy as I saw. It wasn't too easy, but I didn't expect him to be stronger, more powerful, and to have more trickery in his bag. David, at this age, he's got more in his bag than Ortiz.
I heard several times Keyshawn saying that he expects to go to 147 after this fight, but he did mention wanting to fight Dalton Smith. He did mention wanting to fight Devin Haney, who's at 147. So yeah, he's kind of a little bit all over the place. We're still not sure what's going to go on with Keyshawn after this, but Devin Haney fight, that sounds kind of interesting to me, man. I'm not a big Haney fan. Haney, even though he dominated Brian Norman Jr. recently, it was still a boring fight to me. But gotta feel like a Keyshawn Davis versus Devin Haney fight. That's got to be at least pretty intriguing, right?
That'd be a great fight. I mean, there's so many more I'd like to see too, but it seems like he wants the Devin Haney fight. I don't know where Devin Haney is with that. I don't think Devin Haney has a dance partner, but if he doesn't, I don't see why he wouldn't want it. Do you think Devin Haney would want to fight him? Because sometimes the Haneys are a little bit particular about their opponents. David, do you think that he would actually take a fight with them?
Well, they've kind of gone back and forth with it could be a thing. Talking about Shakur, who's said that he's willing to go to 147 himself for Conor Benn. What about Shakur versus Devin Haney? Is that the fight to make at welterweight?
That is the fight to make. I could see something like that. I think Devin Haney would definitely jump at a chance to fight a Shakur Stevens, as opposed to jumping at a chance to fight a Keyshawn Davis, who's younger, more hungry, and a little bit more embarrassing to lose to. So I'd go the Shakur Stevens route, and it pays more. It pays more.
Well, it was a fun night at the Garden. Pretty decent card overall. I'd give it a B plus, B, maybe a B. But we do have a couple of fights in February to look forward to. Next week will be Brandon Figueroa, Texas own, fighting against Nick Ball. We got that coming up next weekend, and then later this month, we have Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. That's actually going to be a pretty good card too, Mark. What else is going on in February?
Yeah, big month for Texas with Brandon Figueroa, Mario Barrios, but also a big fight in Mexico. Christian Medina is fighting Adrian El Gatito Curiel from Guadalajara. You'll hear a little bit about me. You'll hear a little bit about that with me in Spanish this week. Christian Medina, Adrian Curiel, Guadalajara, Mexico, man. Let's get it.
Right on. So stay tuned in to PYP for more on those fights, y'all, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.